Good morning, everyone. I was just going to say thank you and sit down because Undersecretary Ibaugh covered everything, so thank you very much. Just kidding. First, I want to thank the folks at NIAA, Dr. Neville Spear and Katie Ambrose for inviting me to speak. Certainly appreciate the opportunity. We always look forward to a time when we can meet with our partners and talk about where we're going and some of our ideas and find out if those ideas will work or if it's something we need to rethink and go back and do over. When Undersecretary Ibaugh joined us, he had 11 goals that he set forth, and the top one priority, of course, was, and this has been drilled into me every day, is working with ADT and making sure that that works. And if you go down to the other 11 goals, they basically say refer to goal 1. So we are very interested in making sure that this works and works forward. Yesterday we met with the cattle tag working group. And while we were there, I contemplated discussing really where we're going and what USDA is all about, as well as the state veterinary regulatory folks. We have a lot of state vets here. Would you guys raise your hands if you're a state vet? So that tells you something about how important this is to them. They're our partners as well as industry. I thought about how they work and how we work and what our goals are and how sometimes we're at odds with each other, but really not at odds. We all work for the betterment of the agriculture that we oversee. We have a national outlook, and the state veterinarians in this room have a state outlook, and they're trying to protect the agriculture within their state. But as I thought about this, I thought to myself, no one in this room, including the regulators, write regulations to hurt the industry. We write regulations, we create a direction that protects the industry, and we want to work in collaboration. So that being said, I'm going to get into some details of where we want to go, or where we're thinking about going, but not necessarily where there's been a final decision. But we have some goals that we want to set forward and have people begin to address. Some of them we're very serious about. We think that's the way forward. Others we're putting out for comment. So we recognize, as Undersecretary Ibaugh said, that one size doesn't fit all. So all the different sectors have different needs when it comes to traceability. And this forum has helped throughout history for us to look at those gaps and begin to work on the issues that are different. Today I'm going to get into some specifics about what our goals are and discuss USDA's effort to help us get underway to address moving those and closing those gaps. First of all, I want to talk about a multi-part strategy to achieve the 4 goals that Undersecretary Ibaugh spoke about. He talked about advancing data sharing, using electronic ID, enhancing our ability to track from birth to slaughter, and moving forward with electronic certificates of veterinary inspection. These are our top 4 goals and direction. In order to advance these goals, we'll need to take sort of a multifaceted approach that includes integrating data, establishing data standards, improving how we issue tags and retire tags, enhancing our communication and outreach efforts, ensuring financial accountability on all sides, and in some cases, making regulatory changes. To move forward in many of these areas, we must continue to modernize our IT strategy. Those of you that work with IT know how frustrating that can be, but those are our goals, and within USDA we're taking some very serious steps to move forward. Federal, state, and industry partners all hold different categories of data for tracing cattle. And each should own that data that's necessary to perform and meet their needs and functions. But only be required to share pertinent data to the regulatory authorities in that information that's needed in the event of disease outbreaks. Federal and state databases should have access to data on regulatory events such as program work and domestic disease work. That's data that we need to hold. Currently, 29 states utilize USDA-sponsored Surveillance Collaboration Services, or SCS as we call it. That's a database sponsored by the feds. 14 states utilize AHERs. 3 states utilize a private version of SCS through Core 1. And 4 states utilize a private database that they developed. Animal health movement information is currently held in a wide variety of databases across government and industry. The information exists, but right now it's difficult to know where to look for it, particularly when there is an animal disease outbreak. USDA is developing processes to connect with existing information systems and allow transfer of a few key data elements for traceability information as needed for disease tracing, control, and eradication purposes. Our first priority, data sharing animal health events repository, or AHER as we call it. Our AHER system currently houses basic information including tag number, date, event type, state and premises ID of producer, or their state office and system that holds that data. AHER holds about 450 million records from federal and state databases. When needed, animal health officials use the information in AHER to inform them where they need to go to obtain movement or traceability information. Our goal is to integrate these key elements from state and industry animal databases with AHER, the AHER system in general, in order to increase our access to only the data we need without having to own or move full animal records out of private databases. AHER would contain event data only while any comprehensive data remains in restricted data systems with the states or privately held databases. Detailed data is provided through partnership with the state officials for disease tracing while ensuring privacy of the product and the data. This allows us to maintain stakeholder privacy while having access for outbreak tracing readily and rapidly available. USDA is partnering with 2 states, Michigan and Colorado, to provide data to AHER. These are 2 of 14 states using USAHER's database systems, and they both have very different models. Michigan, for instance, has mandatory premises registration and animal identification with RFID 840 tags. Colorado has legislative regulations restricting the ability to share data. We'll use these 2 states to demonstrate how we can share data in accordance with the 2 states' systems and address the challenges they face in sharing data. This partnership is an excellent model for sharing, for demonstrating data sharing. We're working closely with Computer Aid USAHERs. They are writing a report to extract key data elements from these states. USAHERs will put that into AHER. This same report will be available across all states that use USAHERs. Other USAHERs using states expressed an interest in participating and see the value for officials needing to locate traceability data in other state systems. I think we'd all agree that electronic identification paves the way for more rapid and efficient and effective means for animal disease traceability. We've come a long way from NACE. We believe that industry has broadly adopted, that industry's broad adoption of individual animal EID is critical to the advancement of traceability. Because animals in commerce move so quickly and constantly, the use of EID and the electronic transfer of data will better keep pace with the speed of business at ports, markets, and sales. The increase of electronic use is dependent on the ease of use, the comfort level of the producer with the new technology and the processes and the value that they provide. Mr. Eibach said that USDA will not dictate the use of specific tag technology, but USDA will define the information required for collection and the standards for sharing information. The exact type of technology used needs to be determined by the industry and their needs, as Undersecretary Eibach has stated. We want only the capability to access critical information that we need to react quickly during and after disease detection. We know that different industries prefer different tag types. For example, low frequency versus ultra-high frequency. That's been the constant discussion. And the choice will continue to be a cornerstone of USDA's programs, giving producers the ability to decide what works best for their operations. In order to achieve this goal, USDA intends to discontinue and phase out the free visual tags, known as bright tags, by the end of 2019, and move closer to full EID for interstate movement. This is in line with what many of you have already expressed that we do. We recognize that the cost of EID is one primary drawback for producers. Stakeholders have repeatedly told us that they need help in the transition to electronic ID. Therefore, to assist producers with that transition, USDA will begin a cost share for electronic ID. USDA is proposing, that's a big word, proposing, remember that word, proposing that we do a three-way cost share for the price of electronic ID. Under this proposal, USDA would cover 1/3 of the price of the electronic tags. States could then elect to cover or split the remaining cost with veterinarians and producers. Under the three-way cost share, we anticipate the average cost to the cattle producer for an EID tag could be around 50 cents or less. We are now ready to work on the detailed planning of this cost share, working with you, all of you, to figure out how this will work and what's the best way to implement it. As one option for implementing the cost share, USDA administers ADT cooperative agreements. It's a big part of what we do with all the states. In 2019, we'll look to work with the states to ensure that those agreements are being used as effectively as possible, including promoting electronic ID, with tag cost sharing as one activity under those agreements. Further, we are working on methods to improve the ease of acquiring tags. One of the problems we have is folks tell us how difficult it is to get a Prem ID. We want to make that easy. We want to change that. And requesting and register for those Prem IDs. So we're working on that. Goal 3, tracking birth to slaughter. We have a number of activities ongoing to support this priority. USDA is partnering with, as Undersecretary Ibaugh has already told you, with the Kansas Department of Agriculture for the Kansas Cattle Traceability Pilot Project to show that there is value in voluntary collection of birth herd data, and we intend, and they, as well as they intend to define a model that can be expanded nationally. A key feature of the pilot will also include data sharing for birth herd data held at either the state or private level, and the key elements shared with regulatory officials. We expect outcomes of this project in late 2019. Tag retirement. This has been something that we've struggled with. Part of the reason that we want to phase out the bright tag is because of tag retirement. As of today, we have now retired 3.2 million tags from 2012 to 2018. We have 5 agreements from plants to install readers and receive this data. USDA is negotiating with 14 additional plants to collect and share tag retirement data. During this time, the USDA provides technical support and standards to participating plants for the tag retirement data. Our work to date has been voluntary. Mandatory implementation requires changes to 9 CFR, parts 86.2 and 86.4. Those of you that have your CFR with you, you can pull it out and read it. And would be those we need amendments to include requirements that all cattle officially identified with EID to birth premises prior to entering interstate commerce. USDA plans to continue to encourage this through cooperative agreements, funding for now, meaning you all know how long it takes to do a change in the federal regulations. And so we don't anticipate that will happen quickly. So we hope that we can work, especially with the Kansas project leading the way, showing us that we can work forward with this idea. Electronic health certificates. This is big, and it's big for a lot of reasons because we've been working on this for several years, not only to move animals domestically, interstate, but also internationally. So increasing the use of these health certificates will ensure our ability, the ability of the system holding these records to share data, and will further our traceability system. USDA is working with electronic health certificates to make them more user-friendly for veterinarians, incorporating a better user interface and a mobile option. We're also working with our trading partners to further acceptance of electronic certificates and digital signature. And most of our work has been with Canada and Mexico in this area, but we've also worked with other international partners for that acceptance. United States Animal Health Association has a group that led the development of these standards. They'll be presented in October of 2018. Once approved, USDA will incorporate the standards into its systems. We anticipate that this will set the baseline for international standards, expected to be published in fall of 2021. There are several key areas of work that we need to focus on to achieve the 4 goals. Remember, I talked about IT development. So here we are. First, we need to modernize APHIS's IT applications that are required to fully support national traceability. We funded, through USDA this year, and initiated a number of priority IT projects in 2018 to support various aspects of traceability. The Animal Identification Management System, or AIMS, refractor project was initiated in July of 2018. This is what enables tag retirement and integrates the data into AHER. Secondly, the Mobile Information Management System, Management Modernization System, or MIM as we call it, is a project that will be initiated in September of 2019. And with this project, we'll enhance the existing MIM repository and add the function of providing a path to exchange information between federal, state, and industry systems. The MIM that we use helps us collect information in the field. We also initiated contracts to add e-sign live to support the ability to electronically sign interstate CVIs. Although modernization takes significant time for completion, USDA systems are currently operational and consist of alternate processes to facilitate traceability in the meantime. So as we wait for IT development to get us there, we still have systems that are taking us forward. Establishing standards so our systems can work together seamlessly is key for the electronic ID tags, integration of key data elements, and electronic certificates. Tag performance standards for EID devices or tags are necessary to support the needs of the industry. It will ensure that all approved low-frequency radio frequency ID official tags and devices meet existing international code and standards. These standards provide requirements for tag readability, retention, performance in varied environmental conditions, and consistency with national and international standards. To move forward in the modernization of data, USDA is currently sponsoring the development of Interstate Certificate of Veterinary Inspection, ICVI's, data standards. This will help us integrate state, private, and USDA animal movement data. USDA is participating in a joint working group comprised with all USAHA stakeholders. For ultra-high frequency technology, a multinational group is working on developing international standards as we speak. The international community and USDA develop standards as a basis for UHF International Organization for Standardization, or ISO standards. We anticipate the ISO will publish the standards in early 2021. Key in this process is communication. We want to make sure that we walk together and we understand each other. In order to achieve our goals, we have to collaborate. If you counted the number of times that Undersecretary Ibaugh said collaborate, it was several. That's a big part of what we need to do. We have to collaborate between ourselves, between regulatory groups, and between the industry groups. We need the use of pilots to kind of lead the way, to show us where successes can be identified and areas where we need to improve. We have several pilots that we've already done. We planned several this year, and the Kansas pilot has already been identified. Another thing we need that we discussed yesterday is the need to create a common understanding about the benefits of ADT and how the initial costs lead to long-term savings. We have to sell it to the industry. We need to communicate our expectations of accountability for the collective investment that we're putting into this process. And we need to communicate the incentives for each stakeholder involved. We know that it's not a one-size-fits-all, so we need to identify what will be the benefit to the entire industry in the current event, in the event of a disease outbreak. But not only that, what's the day-to-day benefit, and where does it take them? If you watch what's happening internationally, and if you've ever been overseas and bought food in a grocery store, you walk in and you pick up a cut of meat. It'll tell you what day it was slaughtered, where it came from, who owned the meat, where the cow came from. You can trace it back. We don't quite have that system. We may not ever have that system, but I think that will be driven. And we've gone to meetings where they talk about blockchain, and I don't know much about it. But as production above the slaughter plant starts to occur and people start to wonder, where did this come from? And they want data on it, that's going to drive this thing. And we need to be ready at our level to say we've got it up to that point. Thank you for your time. Undersecretary Ibaugh and I will be ready to answer questions. Most of them will go to him, I hope.
Great. Dr. Shere, thank you very much. Great. Thank you.